Hey everyone, it's Andrew. So this is going to be a little bit of a different video. We're going to discuss the topic of should you buy an electric toothbrush over your typical mechanical toothbrush. Before we start, if you can just hit the like and subscribe button, that'd be awesome. Kind of a little bit of background of why I'm coming to this topic is a little while ago I went for my routine dental cleaning with a new dentist. And as part of the dental cleaning, the hygienist kind of saw that on the top of my teeth, I had some recession of the gum lines, and it was most likely because I've been always using a mechanical toothbrush or a typical manual toothbrush my entire life. And I was probably scrubbing too hard or brushing too hard or using a bristle that was too hard. And so in the process, it wasn't really causing damage to the teeth itself, but it was probably causing recession of the gum line, which isn't really reversible, but it can, you can minimize future damage by minimizing that pressure. So as part of that recommendation, or as part of what she recommended me buying a electric toothbrush with a built-in pressure sensor. The interesting thing that happened during that visit was of the toothbrushes that she recommended the Oral-B iO, which I guess my dental office has a partnership with, where you can get it a little bit at a discounted price, where it's, I think it was like $150 or $200 compared to the full price as far as through your regular manufacturer, through Oral-B directly or on Amazon. And so it was a cheaper price, and she was kind of selling it for me. But she really made the comment of you should buy this because it's the only toothbrush on the market that has a pressure sensor. So even despite that, it was good advice, and it was she was selling it and all the different features about it and kind of selling it from that standpoint. But I was I don't want to spend $200 or whatever amount on top of the visit as it is, which even though it was covered by insurance, it didn't matter. But I didn't want to spend that much money without researching it fully. So for a while I was really looking into what toothbrush to get, especially an electric toothbrush. So I went home, I essentially Googled and kind of looked into toothbrushes, and there's all these different toothbrushes on the market. There's a wide variety that had different features like pressure sensors, lights, different battery lengths or battery longevity. It has different ways of charging. It has aesthetics that are different. It has different mechanisms as far as the head design, where it rotates like an Oral-B, or it pulsates like a Sonicare, or there's different heads that you can get. And then there's a wide variety of brands, mainstream brands like Oral-B and Sonicare, and then there's other brands that are newer or coming up like Quip, or there's different toothbrushes that have carbon not carbon the whatever it is, carbon kind of built-in toothbrush design. Either way, there was a wide variety, and it was all over the place, and I tried to do a ton of research into this. I looked at videos, I looked at different online websites, different recommendations from that standpoint, and to be honest, it was all over the place. There was no consistent thing as far as recommendation. The spectrum of the price of toothbrushes was huge. It was a margin of you could get something that was simple like this. This is something that you can just get at your grocery store, where it's the most basic Oral-B, which is $7-10, which is just basically oscillating at the top, and it sounds really loud, versus you can go all the way up to the Oral-B iO, which has all these built-in features. So I didn't know what to get. So ultimately, kind of after looking at all those things, I kind of looked into the actual scientific research to support this, because that's my background, and I was kind of getting to the point where I was fed up with all the options out there. And so I kind of went on PubMed and just did a general search. So the first question I asked was, is a electric toothbrush superior to a mechanical toothbrush or your manual toothbrush when it comes to cleaning and effectiveness and design and those sorts of things? And so if you look in the literature, this is probably the most clear-cut answer, and it is generally saying yes. So an electric toothbrush does provide, at least in the literature that I found, provides better plaque cleaning, and in general better prevention of gingivitis. And that was pretty consistent across studies. So there's a wide variety of studies where it just compared electric toothbrush with some sort of oscillating head or sonic ultrasonic pulsation or so, compared to your traditional manual toothbrush, and it was superior, and it was pretty clear cut based on the literature. So that was kind of, at that I was kind of clear cut, yes, you should buy an electrical toothbrush. The general concept behind it is that the fact that like the electrical toothbrush can oscillate at a faster rate compared to just scrubbing or brushing or doing circular motions than you typically would. So you're going to brush your teeth at a faster rate and a quicker amount during the general like 2-minute time period that is recommended for brushing your teeth. So in that sense, you can get rid of your general manual toothbrush, even though it's cheap, easy, and it's effective. For me, I've never had cavities. I actually don't get my teeth like that. The cleaning I had was the first one in I think like 3 years, but I had general plaque buildup, but I had no cavities, which is fortunate. But I do have general good like teeth as far as genetics. My family has good teeth. So I've always used mechanical toothbrushes, but I was having that recession, like gum recession issue. So that's why I wanted to look into this a little bit further. So from the research question of kind of whether you should get an electrical toothbrush over a manual toothbrush, I would say yes, you should get an electrical toothbrush. Now, the next question is, now looking at the electrical toothbrushes, what should you buy? There's a wide variety of designs out there, and I was trying to figure out what features kind of to get or look into, or what features are supported from a scientific standpoint to support your overall like dental hygiene, and it was very difficult to find. Ultimately, it kind of narrowed down to the sense of like the method or like design of the head feature really is the difference. And so Oral-B, for instance, has these oscillating heads. So if you look in the literature on PubMed, it essentially says like an oscillating head where it rotates. And so that's the mechanism there. So if you look at this one, this is like a cheap Oral-B thing. It kind of rotates, and that's how the head works. Versus like the Sonicare, which is the other mainstream brand you would look at. It essentially, the brushes move side to side very quickly, so it's like a ultrasonic aspect. And so those two main brands, Oral-B versus Sonicare, are the main brands that you would look at. And if you look into the literature regarding that, like the oscillating versus the ultrasonic, I found very interesting research that was there. So in general, there are multiple studies that look head-to-head the comparison between the two. The interesting fact, though, is this: in general, the studies that supported Sonicare or the ultrasonic design, if you look into them, a lot of them had an issue where the authors had conflicts of interest where the funding for the study was by Sonicare or a company in that realm. So it really kind of made me question that research. So even though those studies supported Sonicare over the oscillating design, they were all funded by the company, and that makes me question of, are they just funding it to make it look like it's positive results, to basically say that they can publish or advertise the sense that they're better than Oral-B. On the other spectrum, though, if you looked at studies that compared like Oral-B and Sonicare, there were other studies that actually had positive results for the mechanical or oscillating design over the Sonicare design, and those actually didn't have that conflict of interest, which was an interesting thing. Even like the Oral-B design was superior to the Sonicare in certain studies, and it didn't have that conflict of interest. So that really kind of pushed me more towards the Oral-B design, simply because from a research standpoint, I felt like there's less questionability of the results of the study, and I couldn't find a single study that supported the ultrasonic design over the oscillating design that wasn't funded by the company. So it's an interesting finding that I've had. So that really pushed me towards Oral-B in general as a company. I did look at other brands like Quip. Quip is a brand that essentially they've got these, like, you can go on their website, they've got like a metal design, and then the top is really just like similar to an ultrasonic design where it pulsates or vibrates. But it didn't really provide scientific evidence to support it. There's other ones that have like charcoal heads in them, which I'm questionable about. Like, I tried to look into that a little bit as far as charcoal and getting brushes with built-in charcoal, and they weren't really good. And then there were other brands, they're like more things that specifically on Amazon, I forgot the name of it, but there's one that has the charcoal heads in it, and it had a lot of mixed reviews. So for me, I really want to stick with Oral-B specifically, based on the research that I found. And so if you look at Oral-B's website on the products that they offer, it's a huge spectrum. So your top of the line one would be Oral-B IO, where it's got like 5 different settings that are like whitening versus tooth cleaning versus like heavy cleaning versus tongue cleaning and those sorts of things. They also offer like more aesthetically pleasing brushes where it's like nicer handles, metal design, that sort of thing. It's got like a different charging station. It's got a traveling case, those sorts of things. Even Bluetooth connectivity and like smart features which allow you to connect it to your phone so that when you're brushing it can essentially have 4-quadrant technology where it can essentially look at where you're brushing and where the quality of your brushing. So that's like the pinnacle of like top of the most expensive type of thing with all the built-in features. On the other hand, on the other spectrum is essentially like the Oral-B Pro 1000. This is not that, but the Oral-B Pro 1000 is like their basic kind of like general mechanical toothbrush. And what it offers is has a built-in pressure sensor that when you press too hard, the head will vibrate, so it gives you like tactile feedback to tell you, hey, you're pressing too hard, so press a little bit softer. The thing though is their battery life for that one is a little bit lower, so you have to recharge it more regularly, and if the battery like connectivity breaks or something, you basically have to buy a different one. The spectrum of like the price though varies from anywhere from like I think it's like $30-$40 to upwards of $300. So there's a huge spectrum, and you have to factor in how often am I going to buy these, how often am I going to have to replace them, and should I buy at the top of the line here, and what is it offering me? When I looked at kind of the next question when I looked at into research was looking at like the Oral-B design, what features of the brush are supported in the literature compared to what aren't. So in general, the pressure sensor is supported. It does provide the tactile or visual feedback from a pressure sensor, does minimize the amount of pressure and minimizes the amount of like gingival recession, which is good. Now I try to look at more of the other question was, do all these different settings on the toothbrush play a factor? And when I looked into that, tried to look into that, there's absolutely no research there. There's nothing really published there that says having a whitening setting or like a cleaning toothbrush, like gum cleaning setting versus like a tongue cleaning setting, like does that offer benefit? And there's really nothing there from what I could tell to support that, which was interesting because you've got all these models that offer these features and have like 3 settings versus 4 settings versus 5 settings, but they don't have any really like scientific evidence, at least published in the literature there, to support that. So from my perspective, I saw it as more, this is a way for the company to market a wide variety of lines, create a different set of like price points with different features, and they use that as creating like a huge swath of product designs where you feel like you're buying the most premium brush with the 5 features and the pressure sensor and the light sensor and the Bluetooth technology, and it connects to your phone. But really, when you look into the literature regarding it, nothing is really supported there. So after looking into that, I was like, why would I buy a brush that's $300 when the basic one has support, at least scientifically? And I've never really bought an electric toothbrush. So that kind of pointed me more towards the lower end models. Specifically when I was looking at, as I mentioned earlier, I was looking at the Pro 1000 and then actually the Pro 1500, and then they have this middle line that kind of like has multiple features and adds a little bit of like aesthetics to it, but those weren't really supported. So ultimately it came down to me deciding between the Pro 1000 and then also the Pro 1500. The difference between those, they're very similar in design. The Pro 1000 essentially has that pressure sensor that's tactile feedback versus the 1500 has a light at the top, so when you press too hard it provides a light that lights up, so you get a visual cue. The other difference is mainly that the 1500 has a longer battery life where it lasts roughly 2 weeks and you don't have to charge it as frequently. And so when I came down to it, I ended up getting the Pro 1500 after all this research. I haven't opened it yet, but I'm going to do a video following up on this, essentially discussing that, opening the actual toothbrush and showing you the features for that. But before I wanted to go down that road of like that unboxing video, I really wanted to provide a video providing kind of my rationale for why I bought that toothbrush and like the background of the research of what I looked into. Because if you try to look at this from like YouTube videos, online reviews, and those sorts of things, it's really all over the place, and it's kind of I was very skeptical of a lot of that out there. And even a lot of the YouTube videos that are out there, like looking at like Quip and these different like newer models that are not the mainstream brands, a lot of it was really supported by people that are have affiliate like connections to those companies, and they're selling it from like I feel like a marketing standpoint. So like similar to what my dental hygienist did, which was like she was selling me the Oral-B IO, and that was the only toothbrush, and still she told me that that's the only toothbrush with a pressure sensor, when if you look at it, all of the Oral-B brushes that are electric design have a pressure sensor, except for like this one, which is something that you can get at like, I think we got this at Hannaford. So, and this is just like an oscillating, like that's all it is, and it doesn't offer anything else. But for me, I wanted that pressure sensor because that's the main thing as far as protecting my gums compared to using a manual toothbrush. So I hope this video kind of clarifies that, providing the rationale for why I ended up getting the Pro 1500. Hopefully it's what I like or what I want, but that's ultimately why I decided to pick that, and I just want to kind of put my 2 cents out there. I am not a dental professional at all. I'm just doing this from a consumer standpoint and from like a medical background, but I just want to kind of put that out there. If you have questions or if you have anything like that, please post them below. Obviously there's going to be people out there more qualified than me on this topic because they spend careers doing this, dental hygienists, dentists, those sorts of things. But from my perspective, as far as just looking at what's out there as a consumer, this is ultimately what I ended up picking. So thanks for watching. Please post your comments below, subscribe, and definitely follow up on my video for the Pro 1500 because I'll do an unboxing video shortly, and you can look at that as well. So have a great night.